Welcome to Oberling's Easel. Today we're going to have a really fun time here, as I always do when I have an empty canvas. You know, I put the medium on. I put a tint of some kind of a transparent earth just to kill the white and give it background color, and then, you know, make it very moist with my medium. Now I really don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just playing. I'm playing. I know it's going to be a sky, of course, and there's going to be sun. And I'm thinking maybe a sunset. So you kind of have to decide that in the beginning. So I'm throwing the white on straight from the tube, throwing the orange, yellow-orange on, and some of the red. I mean, it's a blast. So I don't know what's going on. I'm getting into the rhythms. I have music on, and you put your music on when you're listening to this. I like classical. I like classical because there's all this form, edges, and mass in sound, very similar to painting, and climaxes and crescendos. So I'm adding some violet to my red, and now I'm adding green all over the place. I have the slightest idea. This is just going to be fun, just total fun. And it could be a winterscape, it could be a storm, it could be a sunset with trees, it could be a sunset with mountains, rocks, whatever suggests things. And I'm just, right now I'm just, you know, brushing it all together, seeing what I come up with. Just very, very random. And sort of, you know, of course, if it's going to be a sunset, you're going to have some sort of an aura around the sky. And so, in this way, I'm just sketching out the aura. And look how quickly I get something down. I mean, really, just easy peasy. So I've got some idea now. It's going to be a body of light, brilliant light, clouds with the screen of lower clouds, darker clouds in front. But I can just, you know, play around with it. I like the sweeping gesture going across the whole sky. I like randomness. I like accident. I embrace it all. I embrace mud. Mud is love, spelled backwards. Mud is great. You cannot fear mud. Mud is the absence of color. Well, there's plenty of places in a painting where you want the absence of color because you want to set off the color against that absence. So when we say mud, you know, we're talking about a non-color entity which we use as a foil against the color. So it's kind of like a quiet passage versus a loud passage. So here we got, now already at this point I'm getting a sense of my sky, and I'm sorry about the maul stick. I'm learning how to do these videos, and for some reason I just grabbed onto that maul stick, and I'm afraid it's going to be our constant companion during this entire lecture. But so I'm starting to throw in yellow. Now sunset is a progression in nature. It is a progression. As you get toward the sun, you're getting more of the yellow element. As you're getting away from the sun, you get more of the orange, and then the red element, and then the violet, the red violet, and so on. So, but the sun is a huge aura, and it's up to you to not fall in love with any of the smaller brush strokes and little cloud doodads, but just keep in mind that sun has to be enormous, so that effect throughout the whole painting. So you can see there's a cacophony of colors, and I'm not, you know, it's not going to make me panic or anything, because I know how to control the color. And if you look at my complementary color lesson, you'll see that it's very easy. You just play around with stuff. Now, you know, the sunlight here, so I'm working with a decent camera, but I'm saving up for a better camera. And the color is pretty true the way it is now. Sometimes later on in the video I'll let you know. But it's really, you know, we got the sun. The sun is just tremendous aura, and it's lighting up the rims of the various clouds that are in front of it and the underneath the clouds that are overhead. And they're all of these little echoes of that aura. So you want to keep that in mind, and look at some of the great sunsets of Moran, Thomas Moran, or Turner, Innes. You could see all of them. They all did it their way, and I'm doing this my way. And it's a lot of fun because I'm using oil paint the way it's meant to be used. Okay, we take advantage of the fact that you can work wet and wet, and you don't have to sit around and color a boring drawing the way you would with acrylic. You know, you can be spontaneous and totally creative. So I'm building all these layers of clouds. So you know, some stormy classical music helps me loosen up and completely get in the mood of tremendous forces of nature, constantly working with, opposing, thrusting, pushing, pulling, back and forth. You know, nature is totally pliable. It flows from one thing to another. So now you want to get, you know, I want to get certainly the common feeling of the cloud shadow. Now remember, clouds are very soft. We don't fall in love with brushstrokes here. Okay, brushstrokes are, you know, I don't know. It's like false god, because there are no brushstrokes in nature. I mean, yeah, you have your own handwriting, and some, you know, curator who has nothing else to do is going to write a paper on your brushwork, but you're not ever going to think about it once in your life, okay? Because it's complete means to an end. It's your handwriting. Who cares? I mean, if you can't write a book or a story, who cares about your handwriting? You know? So here, you're right. You're making a story, and you're making a story. And I'm using, you know, every brush I can think of. And, you know, I use a house painting brush all the time, and just getting a flow all around, a flow. There's a diagonal, there's a spiral, there's everything in nature pulling and pushing. And, you know, you have to feel it. You have to feel it. So at a certain point I thought I would try, you know, maybe put the sun in there somewhere. And, you know, why not? Give it a shot. If it occurs to you, put it in, but don't fall in love with it. You know, I mean, if it doesn't look right, it doesn't look right. And brush it in, feel it there, live with it for a little while, see if it works. You know, nature's like that too. It sees if things work before it does something. So, yeah, I'm just right now playing around with it. And once again, I have the maul stick with me. I don't know why. Just picked it up. Don't know why. Try not to do it next time. So now, you know, I still don't know what I'm going to do for the landscape at all. And, you know, I'm now doing echoes of the sunset. I mean, it could be a sunrise too. They're very, very similar. And, you know, you don't even have to think about it. It's just whatever it is you want. But you're always looking at nature, because nature is telling you how to do these things. So you do a lot of plein air work. Now here, all right, I have to confess that I did part of this lecture and didn't turn the camera on. So I'm sorry for, I did get some of the random strokes of the tree in there, and I'm working on the reflection. I used a randomizer brush just to get so I had decided by this point, obviously, that I was going to make a group of trees along a river or a pond, a body of water. I'm not even sure if I knew it was going to be a river at that time. So I had taken a walk earlier in the day along a park, and I was in that mode, in that frame of mind. Now I know that the colors are a little wonky in the video, and I'm sorry for that. But you could see that how I've thrown in those sketches. I have a birch and a fir tree, and I decided I wanted those trees because I've done a study of those trees, similar to those trees, and it occurred to me suddenly I wanted that in this painting. So, you know, it's spontaneous. You have your studies around, you know exactly where they are, you get them immediately. And so here I am, I'm working. Now, I have the basic architecture of the tree and the gesture of the branches. Now, you know, when there's a sunset, there's a lot of the leaves and everything on that tree that the sun is shining through. So that's very important to get that in there first. So, you know, this is what you do with your high greens, your yellows, and you work that in where your tree leaf masses are going to be. And you grow your leaf masses just like a tree does, along branches. So if you see a branch, put some leaves on it. If you see some leaves, put a branch in it. Back and forth, back and forth. And you could see how, you know, I'm tickling that along. And I have my various brushes that I've sort of modified that help me a great deal. They're my own brushes. I've cut them up, and I have a lecture on that. So you could see now, you know, and I also, I brushed together the sky more in this phase. So we missed a little segment there, but you can get the idea. I'm slowly pulling together the cloud shadow masses, or I did, so that when I did the foliage, I wouldn't have to go back and, I mean, that would be really awful if I did the foliage and had to go back and calm part of the sky down a little bit more. So I overdid it a little bit, maybe, I don't know. I just been very careful so that when I'm doing all of this intricate leaf work and the sunlight coming through the leaves and through the foliage in the forest, okay, and I've given a lecture on sunlight going through leaves. So, you know, I don't have to go back and try to draw around it with the sky. So here I'm just, again, just tickling up the beautiful leaves and the foliage. And I'm putting some of the echoes of those trees in the distance. Again, I have no idea. They will eventually resolve themselves into specific types of trees, but the general idea is that you're going to have leaves going all the way down, no matter what trees they are, pine trees, cottonwoods, what have you. They're all going to be leaves with light coming through them. So we start getting that idea into the painting. And you could see, how I'm working in some of the darks, the shadows of the leaves, because now you're seeing the leaves and shadows, the side silhouette of the tree. So there's the silhouette of the shadow leaves against the leaves in which the sunlight is going through them. So you build your tree after years of experience painting outdoors. You make your own feeling of your own special trees, that just the way you want them. And they're these fir trees. And of course you have your own sketches, and you look out the window. I mean, I happen to look out the window and I see trees. So I'm working on those, getting those in there. So you could see how quickly I'm now establishing this painting, sense of place. So, there's so much music. There's so much great music to listen to while you paint, to inspire you. And listen to music as just line, mass, and gesture. And if you listen to it like if you listen to a Beethoven string quartet, that's just pure line, form, gesture in musical terms. And start listening to all music that way, and you start to paint that way too, because you see that everything is these wonderful, they're lines, they're gestures, and you're not painting objects anymore, you're painting light, lines, and gestures. So that's at least my way of doing it. So every now and then I do get up and walk around and look and step back. But all of this work that we're doing in this video presentation was done over the course of 2 hours. So, there's no fancy Photoshop here or anything like that. I get up and I walk around, I look at it, and that's the only part that I really cut out, except for the parts I accidentally cut out. But this is how you start. You have the first couple of hours of the painting, and then you can finish it anytime. You can finish it in your sleep. But the inspiration is so important. It's so critical that you work wet and you get everything, all the major ideas down, because you don't want to be stuck remassing or doing too much work changes after everything is starting to gel. So you're always going back and forth all around the painting. So, you're sticking to your basic colors, your basic, just the concepts. Okay, so your reds going away from the sun, and in this case, you blobs of color that need to be brushed out and included in other areas. So You don't fall in love with color either. You don't say, "Ooh, I like that color" when you're painting. So that's a distraction. You fall in love with a color, and then you say, "Well, I don't want to brush over it. I'm going to spoil it." And that's something that you absolutely want to avoid. So, yeah, somebody just came into the gallery while I was working on this, and you know, I get this a lot. They ask, "Oh, do you work from photographs?" And you know, of course they think, I mean, a lot of painters do work from photographs. And I would think, you know, I mean, first of all, the camera, it doesn't have the spirit in it, usually, unless, you know, I mean, some photographers, it's a whole different medium, but why would you need this when you can paint like this? I mean, you can do so much. I mean, a photographer would have to wait in the swamp for half his life to get a scene like this, and you can just sit down and do it. You know, if you know the way, as my teacher would always say, if you know the way. And so here, you know, I first of all, another thing that I want to tell you over and over again is that most photographs don't have halftones in them. So the whole painting is about halftones. It's about middle values. Okay, the color, deep saturation in the middle of the color. You know, so now I'm drawing the river going away. So I'm having a little bit of shimmering light on that, and I'm sitting with it, thinking about it, putting some of that down there, making sure that everything is, the big picture is looking right. There's always going to be reflection, so you have to always think about that when you're dealing with water. And just always try to balance back and forth. When you do the water, do the sky at the same time, the way you do mountains and sky, same thing, all at the same time. So with water, you do have this reflection, and I'm correcting some of the drawing. You see, you don't fall in love with anything. Everything is a continuum. Everything is a beautiful, just a progression. So you get to this point in the painting, and I know that this is really only literally maybe 30 minutes of painting. I mean, I cut out a few scenes of me getting up and looking from a distance, but this is no more than 30 minutes, okay, of the painting. And you know, of course it's going to take longer to work on the details, but I just want to show you what's possible with oil paint. I mean, you know, when you think about like rally cars, and you think about these people who drive through the woods going really fast, I mean, they're telling you what's possible in a little tiny high performance car. I would have never thought these guys can race through, you know, snowy road at 60 miles an hour with lots of curves and not hit a tree. But they're showing us what's possible with that kind of car. Well, I'm showing you what's possible with this fantastic thing called oil paint. And I am driving at breakneck speed. Now I'm going to start putting in the beautiful rhythms. See the branches. I have my sable brush, and the branches of the birch, they have their own sort of rhythm. And You know, you always have to look at them and draw from nature. You know, just get the rhythm, the idea. Don't get it literally. Just get the feeling of the birch and the way the branches go. And do your best, you know? I mean, just... So I'm trying, you know, again, to establish the rhythms here. And I'm working wet and wet, so I could just plow through with my sable brush. Not going to hurt it. And I got this trunk the way I wanted it. Okay. Now the great thing about trees and water is that trees are fighting with each other. See, now I had to switch the... See, trees are fighting each other because the water, there's light and it's open. So they're trying to reach out towards the light, and they're pushing each other toward the light. And they start to fall over, they start to push aside, other ones push them away as they try to grab the light. So there's a lot of drama on the river's edge of trees pushing each other in away, or reaching, pushing, falling. So these are great lines. The lines are so important. Lines, gestures, lines, rhythms. Okay, who cares about precision, about like whether you got a specific tree or not? I mean, as long as you get the type of tree and you make it your own tree, you make it your own birch. Just like Innes made the American elm his own tree. You know, I mean, the American elm was a fantastic tree, and I'm glad Innes never got to see it disappear. But, you know, Innes made the elm his own. You see Asher Durand, you see other painters doing elms. I mean, they're all doing it right, but Innes made the elm his own. And an Innes elm is really an Innes painting. Is his signature tree. So you do these trees your own way, and you'll know that Bierstadt and Corot and all those painters, Theodore Rousseau, the Barbizon painters, the ones I admire, the Dutch, each painter had their own way of doing specific trees. And you don't think about it, you just do it, and it comes out. You don't say, oh, I'm going to paint a Corot-like tree. That's the kiss of death. You have to just know the tree, and you end up painting it your way without even thinking about it. So now I'm starting to get some of the rhythms there. You know, getting some of the cottonwoods. Maybe they're going to be cottonwoods. Maybe they're going to be fir trees. Who knows? See, I'm going back to the sky. I notice something when I'm working in the trees, that there's too much. There's too much. You know, it's jumping too much ahead of the trees, and I would only know that because I'm doing trees. You see, so now the trees are affecting the sky. So now I need to push the sky behind those trees. So, you know, I mean, basically this is such a wet painting that, you know, you're taking advantage of it, that it's so wet. And it's only going to be this way once in its lifetime. So here you get a chance to restate, remass, re-establish. You know, it's kind of at this point, it reminded me of a great painting in the in the National Gallery in Washington. A painting by Frederick Church of an Amazon rainforest in the heat, and the crowding of the trees in the moist, you know, jungle. So I'm thinking of that and how he was doing that, but I have a vague memory of it. I'm not thinking about it anymore. And now I'm thinking about, you know, maybe it's definitely going to be somewhere now in Montana, and I'm thinking maybe now it's going to be somewhere along the Swan River. Instead of a pond, it's going to be along the river when the river is very calm. And so I'm thinking about that. That's where it's going to be. But, you know, you could just play around. So, again, I'm going back again to put the shadow, the architecture of the shadow on the trees. And of course, you know, when this is done, this is not going to be, I'm not going to leave it, you know, I'm going to work on it some more, of course. But at a certain point, there's so much paint on here, you know, you want it to sort of dry out, and you want to also give it some chance to hit a few, you know, to just work on a few more things in the painting to make it stronger. But you're not going to worry about finishing it at this stage. You're going to try to do as much as you can do within reason, because, you know, you may have another idea after this thing is sitting on the easel for a day, and that idea will help too. So constantly thinking about the leaves. I'm always slowly building the trees from the branches and the trunks. Okay, I'm always telling you to do that. Always. Okay? Just like people's hands have to be at the end of arms, or people's feet at the end of legs. If you have the leg in the wrong place, or if you have a foot with no leg, it's wrong. If you have a hand with no arm, it's wrong. So the arm and the hand, they flow together. Same thing with the leaves and the branches and the boughs and the trunks. You know, everybody has their own way of doing it. There's no one right way. Your way is the best way. But you also have to not fall in love with artifice. Okay? You can't just say, well, this is my style. I'm not going to finish my painting. I'm not going to, you know, push it any further. And that becomes then a mannerism. And you don't want that. Okay? So you're always pushing yourself more, further. Okay, more color, more drama. So, you know, and again, I'm not falling in love with brush strokes. I'm trying very hard to get my birch tree to be bending over from the weight of the leaves and the wind and the river undercutting it. And then it goes into that big fir tree, which is thrusting in the opposite direction. Now it's time, you know, to put some of the light on the trunks of the tree. So, just more light, definitely. Then you're putting light on the branches. And these are notes for, later on. You're going to develop these maybe a little bit more when the painting's dry. You're going to add on, you're going to just, you're going to put in some of the light on the birch. The birch is in the forest. Some rocks maybe. Some glints, rocks, branches, whatever, and then again, you're always bouncing around this thing. Well, here's an opportunity. Put the light at the bottom of these little sundog type things, or misty clouds, or rain showers, whatever they are. So and you're just working on more smaller forms. I mean, think about fractals. Think about everything. Detail. What is detail? I mean, detail is just smaller forms. Okay? Big forms, blobs. Okay? Detail is smaller blobs, smaller forms. Okay? So even in the, computer or whatever, you have little pixels and you have tiny little squares. So a circle, is really made out of tiny little squares. So, I mean, without getting too, philosophical or whatever, I mean, if you just think about detail as subdividing forms again and again, down to a certain point, then if you can do the large forms, you can do the detail. Back and forth, back and forth. So you just have to know that. It's not something new I've been saying. It's something that always is important, and you're always out there painting nature and being as true to nature as you can be in the spirit of it. Okay? And of course you are one spirit. So you're not going to copy my way of doing it, but you're going to see that hopefully that you can use oil paint this way and not be afraid of mud and not be afraid of anything really, and just have total freedom based on, of course, knowledge and understanding and love of nature, which you are absolutely absolutely sworn to. So I'm thinking about the Swan River right now in Montana, and eventually I'm going to put some distant mountains, and I'm going to put a few more fir trees, because over here we have a mix of firs, cottonwoods, and birches along the river. And so I want to create that sense, that feeling. See, I'm playing with ideas. I'm saying, well, what if I extend that over there? Nah, I don't really like it. So you can just play around with it. It's wet and wet, and I could play with it for another hour. But The important thing is that you just get that. See, there has to be sort of a silhouette mass in the trees at a certain point, especially around the sun. So you can't have it be murky. Okay, the sun does pop out. So that's what I did there. I cleaned that up a little bit. And then I'm echoing that in the reflection. See, you have whatever brushes you need. I use round brushes, I use square ones, I use wild ones, crazy nut ones, and you just have them all there, and you're just reaching for them whenever you need them for various things. Okay, well, that's a really horrible non-color version. I don't know why it photographed that way, but I wanted to show you the detail, and you know, and then at the end of this will be somewhat more of an accurate color thing. But I want to show you the level of detail I have at this first run, and when it sits, it'll dry, and then I know what to do now. I've got the whole thing, you know, developed, and it's just a question of now working on it some more. So, but this, you know, I don't know why it, you just never know with the camera. You just try to photograph it, and it's more of the true color of the sky and the things that are going on, and the distant trees, things. So, and then here's the more, well, that's a little bit gaudy, but that's another view of it. And I really am sorry that I cannot seem to photograph it completely accurately at this point. Thank you very much.